Hi, people, and welcome to today's live stream, which we call an inside view on academic life in Sweden. We are here today to give you the inside scoop of the Swedish classroom. We're going to talk about academics, teaching, learning, and much more. I'm Julia. I work in the Study in Sweden team at the Swedish Institute, and I'll be your host of the day. Before we deep dive into the academic culture of Sweden, I'd like to tell you about an opportunity that you most certainly do not want to miss out on. This autumn, we have 3 Study in Sweden virtual fairs. If you join, you'll get the chance to meet us at Study in Sweden, but most importantly, over 23 Swedish universities. So instead of browsing the university's website for answers, you'll meet their awesome representatives and you can ask all of your burning questions. Each fair is focused on or towards specific regions, depending on time zones. But you can, of course, take part in which event that suits you best. The virtual fairs are free of charge. Yay! And you'll find more information and you can register on our website, studyInSweden.se. Make sure to not miss out on this. It's going to be great. So, it's time to talk about academic life in Sweden. And we have invited 2 guests of the day, 2 current international students in Sweden. We have Annamaria and Nozi.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Welcome. Or should I say welcome back? Because the audience have or maybe recognize you from our live streams in the spring. So happy to have you here again.
Happy to be here.
So, for the ones who do not know you, let's start off by some introductions. Annamaria, if you want to go first, just tell us a little bit about yourself and where do you come from and what do you study?
Yeah, so my name is Annamaria and I'm from Slovakia and I study Biomedical Sciences at the University of Skövde, bachelor's degree.
Is it the second year?
Second year,
yeah.
yes.
Second year, yeah. And Nozi?
Hi everyone, my name is Nozinhle and I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm currently doing the second year of my master's in robotics and automation at University West.
Yeah, and University West is located in the Swedish
Trollhättan.
in Trollhättan, yeah.
Sweden, yeah.
So both Skövde and Trollhättan are rather like smaller cities in Sweden. Yes.
Yeah.
So I would like to start off by just giving the audience some basics about higher education in Sweden. So Annamaria, perhaps you can just tell the audience, is it possible to find a lot of degree programs here in Sweden that are taught in English?
Yes, I think there is like so many options to choose from. A lot of them focus on maybe business and marketing studies, but there is a lot in engineering as well. Not so much in the biosciences. I think medicine and dentistry is only in Swedish. So if you want to go in that direction, biomedicine is maybe the best alternative option. But there is a lot of options in English.
Yeah, it is. It's actually over 1,000 programs, both in bachelor degrees and masters, taught entirely in English. And for the audience, you can find all programs listed up on our website, studyinSweden.se. This website I will keep repeating throughout this live stream because that's your go-to for more information about anything regarding studying in Sweden. But Nozi, do you know, can you study both bachelor, masters, and PhDs in Sweden?
Yes, absolutely. So you can do your bachelor's and you can do master's programs as well, and they're all very much available in English. I'm studying in English, and also you can do your PhD. And I think the interesting thing about maybe studying your PhD in Sweden is that you don't have to pay fees. Actually, it's regarded as a job, and you actually get paid to do it, which I feel is awesome.
Yeah.
So cool, yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's a good thing to address here that because we're not going to deep dive in the PhD section, but as Nozi says, it's considered a job in Sweden. So you actually get a monthly salary. And if you are interested in doing PhD in Sweden, please, again, visit our website because it's more information there. But yeah, so as we said, over 1,000 programs, both bachelor degrees and master's programs taught entirely in English. And so there's a lot to choose from, so to speak. But let's talk a little bit about your programs. Can you maybe share, Nozi, a little bit about your studies? How's the workload in your program?
Okay, that's fine. So mine is very practical oriented because it's an engineering degree. So a lot of our courses have a very significant component of practical work. And by practical work, that means doing some lab work, that is doing actual practical at the robotics lab, but it also means doing some exercises using different industry grade software. So we also do a lot of simulations, a lot of programming as well. But generally, when I look at maybe, let's say, for example, my calendar, you realize that a lot of my work, let's say, for example, in a given week, is allocated to independent studies. So I do not have a lot of lectures where I actually have to sit in and listen. I think this year is even less than last year. I probably have to attend like 4 or 5 lectures in a week, and the rest is structured around either going to the lab to do practicals or just making time for me to study on my own or in a group. So that's one key thing that I noticed when I came here, which is different from my country, in the sense that when I was doing my bachelor's in my country, I had a lot of lecture time and I was always in class. But here it's very much different. So it really requires a certain level of discipline because you don't have to be in class, but you still have to study.
Yeah. Is it the same with your program, Annamaria? Because I can imagine if you come from a country where, like you said, Nozi, maybe there's classes all day, and then you come to Sweden and it's a lot of individual time. The change at start might be, oh, I get a lot of like free time or spare time when it's actually individual time for your studies. So how is it in your program, Annamaria?
Yeah, that's what I thought in the beginning. I thought that I have so much free time, like I don't have to go to school, so I didn't study too much, and then I was stressed like right before the exam, so I had to learn how to kind of split the study time into sections by myself without the help of like the school, I guess. So I had to study alone a lot in the library, but my degree focuses more on the academia, so it's maybe less practical because there's a lot of knowledge to learn about the human body, so a lot of theory, and we go to the lab occasionally, but it's not the core of the degree. I think mostly it's about learning the theories. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You maybe just tell the audience also how international your courses or your classes or programs are. Is it only international students, or is it a mix between Swedes and people from around the globe, or how is it at your school and in your programs, and how are they alike? So maybe you can start.
So in my class, I think we are like on average maybe 20 to 20, maybe around 20 people in a course, depending on how many international students or exchange students we have, sorry. And I can say, like, I'm from Zimbabwe. I have a classmate from Gambia. I've got classmates from Germany, France, Belgium, and then we also have some Swedish citizens in our class. So it's very diverse in terms of the different regions that people come from. It's very international. India as well. So yeah, I get to learn with people from literally all over the world, which is it's quite an experience, and it's more interesting because we also get a lot of exchange students. So almost every semester you have new people coming in, and they also come from other different countries. Most of the time European countries, but still, it's you get to really meet a lot of people from different countries.
Yeah. And also, when I first went to uni here in Sweden, I didn't know that for each new course, there was a new set of people. That was actually new to me, even though I'm from Sweden. So one course, maybe there was, I had, let's say, 20 classmates for 5 weeks. And then in the new course, there were 20 again, but there was new people. Is that the same thing with you as well, Annamaria? Do you have like new people coming in and out? Of course, you have like your classmates who follows you all the way to graduation.
Yeah, we have some courses that we take together with the other bioscience degree programs. So sometimes we are like 200 in a lecture hall, and I don't know those people. And then sometimes we are just our class, which is about 40 people. So it changes a lot. Yeah, you meet a lot of new people, I guess, in the course. It's not just your classmates.
And speaking of that, I saw a question in the live chat regarding how's the interaction among students in a diverse classroom. Is it like a culture shock, or can you learn from everyone with different backgrounds? How is the interaction between you and your classmates?
Well, in my case, I think because people are coming from different regions and backgrounds, so obviously there's going to be like a different way in which people approach situations. But generally, you find that the way the course is structured or the way the academic system is structured is to encourage collaboration. So in some cases, you find that, like, for example, this semester, I've got 3 courses, and in 2 of those courses, it's actually group projects. And that gives you a lot of platform to get to work with other people. And that's just how it's been since I started. From I think the first semester when I started, you always have these group assignments that you have to do together. And in as much as sometimes you may not really fully understand each other because you're different people, when you get to work together and collaborate and find a solution to a problem that is common to all of you, you get to then appreciate each other more, you get to learn from each other more, and it really makes you relate better. So that's one of the things that I can appreciate about the experience as a student here.
Exactly. And I can imagine that being one of like the perks or the usps of studying abroad, that you meet a lot of people and you get new perspectives on things. And as you said, Nosy, group work is a huge thing in Sweden. So you really get the chance to interact and talk and get to know people in the classroom. Is it the same thing in your program, Annamaria, as well?
Yeah, we have a lot of group work. Also, we often study like in a group instead of alone. And I think it's really cool to have such an international class. Like, I got to know people from like many countries all over the world, and I mean, we are all friends. I don't know anyone who had like conflict between each other because of where they come from. So that's not a thing really here. Because
really
we all we all have the same goal, I think so.
Yeah, exactly. And when you finally graduate, you have friends all over the world.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And speaking of when we talk about like inside the classroom, how do you find the Swedish academic culture? Or was it anything that surprised you when you came to Sweden? Annamaria, maybe you can go first if you have something in mind that really surprised you, or it was a big difference from Slovakia.
I think like I was surprised about how much Swedes focus on partying. Also, but because we study most of the time like at our universities, but here it's like you should also have fun, like it's the work-life balance in the university as well. And I don't know. Should I also say something about the academic study?
Yeah, of course. Please share.
Yeah, so I was also quite surprised how we interact with the teachers.
Mhm.
Like that, I felt like we are more equal than a teacher and a student. So I'm not afraid to like ask them questions or talk to them as kind of to friends, you know. So I'm not intimidated by the teacher. So that's what I was surprised by, and that's what I like about
Yeah.
Sweden. Yeah.
Is it the same with you, Nosy?
Oh yes, especially the last part about how so informal the approach is when you have the interaction with the lectures. Because from my previous studies, you always had to have this level of respect for your teachers, and that
Yeah.
meant maybe like when you address them, you use say ma'am or Mr. So and so. But here it's like you're on a first name basis with your teachers, and for me it was so weird at first because I was so not used to calling my professor, oh, hi, Anders, oh, hi, Michael. So,
Did you know that in beforehand that you were supposed to say the first name, or was it that you said the last name and the teacher or the lecturer were like, no, you can call me by my first name? Or how was like the first interaction with the lecturer?
so
Do
it
you
never
remember?
really got down to like maybe let's say a personal interaction, but it was like maybe you're in class and they're lecturing and someone's like, no, Michael, I actually don't understand. And it was one of the Swedish students. And I looked at him and for me it was like,
What?
okay. So, but with time you then realize, oh, he was like totally fine with it. And that's what my Swedish classmates were doing. So you realize, oh, okay, because I'd read about it in one
Yeah.
of the blogs on Studying Sweden website. But when you actually get to experience it, it's like so totally different. And I was like, okay. And even on my emails, I was still at that point where like, oh, good morning, sir, stuff like that. But then with time, you then realize just how cool they are with being referred to by their first name. So for me, that was like one of the things that was so different from my previous study and the culture that I'd been used to before. But also in terms of like the work-life balance, I feel like it's really there because you find that even when you're studying, there are a lot of activities that are planned around students' lives. So you have a lot of like, for example, the school, the students' union, they get to organize a lot of events so that students can enjoy themselves outside the classroom, be it going for activities or just doing sports or maybe just doing meetups. At one point, I think we had like a food meetup or something where people from different countries brought their food. So there's always a lot of activities that are going on, and the idea is sort of like to cement the idea that yes, you're a student, but you're not really just here for the studying and the learning. You also have to network and interact with people and learn as much as you do outside the classroom. So I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah. I actually spoke to yesterday. I met a Swedish alumni. He was visiting our office, and I actually asked him what's the biggest. He was from Pakistan, if I remember correctly, and I asked him what, because I knew that this ice room was the day after. So I asked him what's the biggest difference, or what was the biggest difference for you when you came to Sweden, and he talked about exams and how the setup of the exams. He thought that was like the biggest difference, and I believe that, or I think that is also a big difference from or between Sweden and other countries, that you have one course maybe 4 to 5 weeks, then one exam, moving on to the next course 4 to 5 weeks, and then an exam. So it's not, I know in several other countries you have the full semester with courses, and then you have like a period of time where all courses are examined. So how is it in your programs? Do you find it to be, or is it different from your home country? And also, do you think it's a good setup, so to speak? And I can also imagine, speaking of exams, you can also address how you are examined in your programs, because I can imagine that it's a big difference between your programs as well.
Yes, sir. It's very different from what I was used to because, like we mentioned, most countries have the structure where you study for like the whole semester and then you have exams at the end of the year. And in my case, it was just one exam per course. and that was it. But when I came here, first there is the distinction where you have like 2 study periods within a semester, and you take different courses in between the 2 periods. But also for me, what I liked the most is the way that you're being examined. Where previously you'd probably just have to sit in a hall and answer a set of questions, the examinations that I get to take here are very different. Like, say, for example, we get to be examined using assignments. So you can be given assignments that you can either write and hand in, or that you can fulfill using different softwares like simulations and programming. Or you can actually have a project that you're examined on, and you get to present the project at the end of the study period, and you get marked on that. We also get to be examined based on like attending seminars, and what you present in the seminar, depending on the case study that you've been given, and how you also challenge or engage what other students presented. So there's so many diverse ways in which you get your final grade. So depending on the course, I don't think I've ever had like a course that is almost similar in terms of how 2 different courses are being examined. All the time it's always different. Like this one you have maybe 4 assignments and 1 exam. This one you just have hand-ins. And I think the biggest thing that I've enjoyed is that not every course requires me to have a final exam at the end of the semester. For some courses, if you do your hand-ins and you do your projects and you submit your assignments, it's enough for you to get your grade without having to have a final exam. So yeah.
Is it the same in your program, Annamaria? Is it similar or different?
It's similar because we usually we are examined based on combination of those things like seminar report and final exam. But since it's such a theoretical knowledge, typically, then we have to have the final exam at the end. But I think it's much less overwhelming when we have just 2 courses per half a semester, and then an exam, and then we take another 2 courses, because I can focus more on the 2 subjects and learn them in depth, and then just pass the exam and move on. So I really like that, because in my country we usually have 5 to 7 courses per semester, and then you have all the exams in January, and just it's a very stressful period of time.
Yeah, I can imagine it being very stressful.
Yeah.
And also it's hard to remember the first course because it was such a long time ago. But also because I think one of you guys mentioned this, but there are several ways in Sweden that you can get examined. The setup, it can be written exams, it can be oral exams, take-home exams as well, and also, like you said, or practical exam, or so to speak.
Yes.
So which one is the most common in your program?
So for me, I would say maybe hand-in assignments are majority of the work that we do during the course of the period. But a lot of the courses that I do also have a practical element, whether you're actually practically implementing it at the lab or doing a simulation using software. So almost all the courses have that certain element in them because maybe of the nature of the program.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this previously as well, that how practical, or that you, Nosy, are studying a program that is perhaps a bit more practical than Annamaria's. So is it, Annamaria, what about your program? What is the most common?
Oh, sorry. We usually have the written exams as the examination. Yeah. I mean, we had bioinformatics, for example, where we only had to how do you say it? Write some projects and send them to the teachers, so that was okay. But usually it's the written exam form.
Yeah, is that written at the university or is it take-home exam?
It's at the university and it's pretty strict, so you have to sit there and you can't have any phone or you can't sit close to other persons. So it's a serious exam.
Yeah, I remember when I went to uni that if you were going to the bathroom, you had to log it, the time and everything. So they knew how long you've been at the toilet.
Yes, that's
It is
also
very
funny.
different, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's also a good thing so that people do not cheat, because
Well, yeah.
then you don't learn, basically.
True.
Um, so speaking of exams, one thing I know is different in Sweden as well is, or let me just ask, have you guys failed an exam, or do you know someone who has? And do you know what happened? And like I say, after a potential nervous breakdown that you probably go through if you fail an exam. Has it happened to you guys, or do you know anyone that has gone through this?
I've never. Oh no.
Or Annamaria?
Yeah, I've never failed an exam. Luckily, I guess, but I know that many people in my class did, because some of the exams are pretty hard, and I don't think there is too much stress about failing the first exam, because you have always the chance to do it again second time. But there's only 2 times that you can do the exam, so you have only one retake chance, which was surprising for me, because in my country you have 3 options to retake. So it's maybe a little bit more pressure. But then I know also some people who failed the second retake, and then they can take the course again next year. So it's still not the end of the world, and usually they can continue with the program. They just do the course again.
Yeah, and I think it depends on what university you're a student at, how many retakes you have, because I think that or actually I have a sentence from our website that says we focus on learning, we're not punishing failure, which I believe is a good sentence, and it tells a lot. Because in Sweden you are, like Noze mentioned before, that you have a lot of like individual time for your studies, so you are responsible for your own learnings. But if you fail an exam, you can retake it. So it's not the end of the world, as you said, Annamaria, that you have the possibility to retake it, but at the same time, that's not something that you should be depending on. You should always try to make your best and try to succeed with all the exams. Nosy, do you have anything to share on this matter, so to speak?
Yes, true. My experience was from last year, I think around the Christmas period, because part of the assignments that we had to do over the Christmas period. And I think I sort of underestimated how much work I had to put into one of the projects that I had, which was a simulation based. So how that one is structured is you have tasks that you need to fulfill, and based on how much you fulfill the task, that will determine your grade. So for example, if you have 3 tasks to fulfill and then you only maybe complete one, it's just enough for you pass a C. But if you do 2, then it's a B, and if you do all of them, it's an A. And because I underestimated how much time I'm going to need to work on it, I got to the deadline and I could only maybe get a C pass from for the submission that I had. So I decided not to hand it in because it's a course that I was really passionate about and I wanted a good grade in it. So I did not hand it in, which meant that it becomes a fail, and then you have to do the re-exam. But the good thing about the re-exam is even though you get a new task and a new project and you have to do the whole thing all over again, but you can still be graded like an A or a B or a C, right? Which I eventually did in the end. So I think that level of flexibility to say, okay, sometimes you have that second chance to do it if you feel like, okay, you can perform better, but maybe things didn't go right the first time, or there's something that you didn't do right the first time. There's always that room to sort of like correct yourself. And I like that because I think in my previous school, we never had that opportunity. Probably if you had to do a retake, the best that you could get was like a pass, and you could never get an A or B. But here it's different because I think the focus is on proving to the examiner that you have grasped the concept of what you were taught, and you're not going to be punished because you submitted it the second time around, or if it's another school where maybe you have a third chance. So the focus is on you actually getting the concept at the end of the period.
Exactly.
And like Annamaria said, if you don't pass, you still have the option of retaking the course in the following year, although that's not advisable because that also means more workload. But
yeah, exactly. Because that's important actually to also just address that even though it's okay and you can retake an exam, it doesn't mean that your program will go on pause.
yes,
It will in the end be like a pile of exams that you need to pass. So it's important to just address that even though you can do retakes, it's going to be at the same time as the new course that is coming. Yeah, we're going to move on to what I called "What would you do" segment. So I'm gonna ask you a sentence or a questions, and you can just share your thoughts on it and what you would have done. And before this, I just like again to mention our upcoming Study in Sweden virtual fairs. This autumn, we have 3 virtual fairs that are free of charge. Where you, the audience, can register and you can meet us at Study in Sweden, but you can also meet representatives from more than 23 Swedish universities. The first one is actually next week, the 5th of October. The second one is the 22nd of October, and the third one is the 12th of November. Yeah, make sure to not miss this opportunity as they are free of charge, and you can get to know Sweden a little bit more and also ask your questions directly live to the universities. And perhaps it's your first step, or if you're here, this is your first step to studying in Sweden, and the virtual fair is your next step on your journey to Sweden. Okay, people, what would you do if you're in a class listening to a lecturer giving a presentation and there's something you do not really understand? What would you do, Annamaria?
Oh, okay. So in Sweden, I think it's really easy to ask a question, but sometimes, like in the big lecture halls, when there is 200 students, you probably don't want to just interrupt the lecturer and ask a question. I mean, if you're not encouraged to in that moment. So usually, what I would do is ask maybe at the end of the lecture, like if he still doesn't mention it throughout the lecture, I can just go down and talk to the teacher. Yeah, afterwards.
Do you feel that it would have been okay to address it immediately?
Oh yes,
Or
definitely.
yes, yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
Nice.
It's very usual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if see if your lecturer asks you to share an opinion on a topic discussed in class, what would you do? Is it like, how is your feeling if the lecturer asks you a questions in front of everyone? Do you like panicking, afraid to say the wrong answers, or how is the kind of like the vibe in the classroom?
Well, for me, I think fortunately our classes are a bit smaller, so the interaction is quite more personal. So you realize that after a given period in time, you become very comfortable in not just interacting with your classmate, but even the lecturers that we have. So it's very easy to voice your opinions and feel comfortable in expressing them, even when they are wrong. So sometimes you may be thinking of, okay, maybe you got lost in a certain concept and you want to sort of like, okay, I can share what I think I get from this, and there's room for correction. So because of that personal interaction that we have, I think it's very easy for me to comfortably ask a question or just share my opinion when called upon. I used to be very nervous about raising my hand in class,
Yeah.
but now I feel like it's really a very comfortable environment, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. And as I know you said this previously as well, that it's kind of like an open culture in the classroom. So the hierarchy is not, it's not that you're afraid of the lecturers. They
Yeah.
are there for you guys to help you and teach you, basically.
That's true.
And would you, Nosy, also share your like your honest opinion, even though it may not go in line with the lectures?
Yep.
You,
Yes.
yep, yep, straight
Like
up.
it has happened, especially when it comes to maybe uh, one of the courses that we had, and I think the examining structure was sort of like a bit too much focused towards the end of the semester, and it became a bit overwhelming. And it got to a point where we're like, no, but I feel like maybe we should have just stuck to the course PM and had the assignments when we had to have them, not to have like everything at the end of the semester. It was, I think, probably the first time where we had like a discussion with lecturers as a class, and it was interesting to see that they were like, okay, fine, I agree, you guys have a valid point, this is how it happened, and
Yeah.
okay, we find a way around it and we got a bit of an extension. So yeah, it's easy to then say, if you're not happy with the situation, you voice your opinion. And I think the important thing is it does not like have a negative impact, because sometimes people can think, oh, if you raise your voice to your lecturer, then you will not pass the course. You cannot do that, but that is not the case. That is
No.
not the case at all. You get to freely raise your opinion, and most of the time they really take it into consideration and come up with like a reasonable resolution that is good for everyone involved. So
Yeah.
I think that's
And I think it's really important what you're addressing here, because the lecturers, even though they've been working and teaching in the field that they are teaching you guys in, they can still learn from you guys.
yeah.
It's all about that we discussed previously, that you share your honest opinion and you talk and share different perspectives. Or at least I believe that's how you progress.
That is true.
Yeah. So, Annamaria, if you feel really overworked by uni, I mean, in a way that is not even bearable, what would you do?
Well, so we have in our university, and I think it's in most of the universities, like student study advisors or study counselors that are there to help you maybe manage your schedule in a better way, or even if you need to like postpone the course maybe for another year, they can also help you do that. So they're there to basically advise you what to do if you feel like it's too much and you're stressed. So I think that's where I would go and just ask for help, because it's very easy here to find help on many things, for many things. Yeah.
What about you, Nosy? Is it, do you feel like, have you taken contact with a student union or an advisor as Annamaria, or have you talked to a lecturers if you've been in the same situation?
Well, in my case personally, I think I haven't gotten to a situation where maybe I felt like, okay, I really need to address this and have someone help me. But I know that the universities or the university offers a lot of support for students, and it doesn't really necessarily mean someone who's struggling with their school. Sometimes it can mean someone who's having maybe like a challenge in their personal life, and obviously
Yeah.
it trickles down to how they perform at school. But I think the most important thing that Annamaria mentioned is that you have to voice it out. You can engage your course responsible, you can engage your lecturer, you can engage like the school counselors, because we have a counseling center where you can go to and get assistance for free. So when you voice out that, okay, I'm going through this and it's going to be a challenge, you're listened to, and
Yeah.
the situation is taken into consideration. Like you don't have to suffer alone, and it's not like you're going to express your opinion, you express the situation and then have no one do anything about it. I think they really go out of their way to not help and make sure that you get back to where you need to be able to do well, not just on your academic but also on a personal space. So the
Exactly.
support is really there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And And they, of course, they cannot just remove exams and making life sweet for the students. But as Annamaria and Nosy says, that just address the stressfulness, and also from time to time, university studies can be stressful, but not for a long period of time. Just addressing your feelings to your peers or lecturers or anyone who you've mentioned. I think it's a great way of, again, like the academic culture, it's kind of like open, and the people at universities, the lecturers and the universities themselves want the students to succeed, and they are coherent, even though, they cannot just remove things from the agenda. But maybe they can go around things, kind of like help the students. And I know that we spoke of this in the beginning of the live stream, but I saw a question about work-life balance, and someone, I think they wrote, how is the life-work balance philosophy applied in the Swedish educational system?
Okay, I can go first.
Yeah.
I think that it's one of those things where you actually see it happening, and it's beautiful when you do. I'll give an example of like when my first semester here, there was a time when the school organized a trip to Kiruna for people who were interested. And I had one of my classmates, and we were supposed to submit like an assignment for one of the courses. And then he just walked up to the lecturer in a discussion with him and asked to like get an extension on the assignment. And also he just said, also, I will not be able to be in class the whole of next week because we have this trip to Kiruna, but I'll come and submit everything as soon as I'm back, which he did. But for me, it was like, oh, wow, you can actually do that. Like you can actually say, okay, I have this planned and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm letting you know that I won't be here next week. And I'll be able to fulfill my duties as a student, but also this is something that I need to do. But also the way the lecturer responded, so okay, no, that's fine, that's okay. And it wasn't even a big deal. It was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes you build up things in your own head. Yeah.
It really was like, okay, wow. And it's one of those practical examples where you actually see that the work-life balance is there. It's not like, oh no, you missed my lecture, you're going to fail. Oh, you don't submit this assignment on time, you're going to fail. It's very flexible and accommodating, which for me, I've loved a lot.
Yeah. What about you, Annamaria? Do you feel work-life balance also apply to the Swedish educational system or the Swedish culture or academic culture?
Yeah, I think like I experience it only in the way that if you organize your schedule well, then you have for sure time for like other activities like part-time job or something else, but you need to make sure that you find time to study as well. But I have a friend who is doing a full-time job while doing the degree, which is not recommended, but she still is doing it, and she's in touch with the study advisor, and she like arranges the courses in a way that she can do the full-time job while studying, and she passed 2 courses already, and like she can do the degree basically with a full-time job in the way that fits her schedule. So it's perfect. Yeah.
And that's also like you're saying, like organizing your own schedule is how you can self-apply the work-life balance. So if you organize your schedule that maybe on a Tuesday you have more spare time, but maybe on the following Wednesday you need to sit down and do your not exams, but doing your university work all day long. Yeah. Okay, people. Would you say that the academic life and culture in Sweden suits everyone? Annamaria, you can go first.
Yeah. So I think it can suit everyone because I feel like if you feel like it's too much, you can always go to the study advisor and adjust it. And if you are not challenged enough, there is possible to take the free studying courses from other universities as well, and that way you can challenge yourself more. And also with the student life, I think the student union offers a lot of events or activities which are so variable, or how do you say it? You don't only have to party, but you can also do some other things to socialize. So I think everyone can find their way in the Swedish academic life and culture that will suit them.
Yeah. I have a quote from, again, our website, studyinsweden.se, where it says, if you want to challenge yourself academically, I'm looking down because I'm reading. If you want to challenge yourself academically, if you care about the environment, want to live in a world where everyone is treated equal, and want to live in a modern country, then Sweden may be a good choice for you.
Yeah.
Nosy, would you agree on that?
I agree on that statement 100%. And I also agree in the sense that there's so much diversity in the education system. Like we mentioned the different courses that are available, but also the different universities. So if you want to be in a big city, you can be in Stockholm and Gothenburg. If you want to study in a large school, you can be in Uppsala, KTH, or Chalmers. And then if you want maybe like a smaller, more quiet environment, there are plenty of schools that also have that type of approach. And there's a very wide range of the courses that you can study and the different ways in which all those courses are delivered at different schools. So I feel like if you look, there is definitely something for everyone. And Sweden is one of those places where no matter what you're looking for as far as academics is concerned, I think you'll be able to find it.
Yeah,
That's true.
would you give, or do you have any advice to students considering Sweden as a place of study? Perhaps someone in the audience, this is their first interaction with studying Sweden and the Swedish classroom. Do you have any advice for them besides joining our virtual fair this autumn?
Well, for me, I'll say it's very important to do the research in terms of how the school that they're interested in and the program they're interested in, well, what they actually want to do. So it's very important to not just say, oh, I want to study, maybe let's say, for example, robotics. And then you're like, whatever robotics program is there, I'm going to apply for it or whatever. I think it's important, not only because you have a limited number of courses that you can apply for, but you also want to go to a place that will bring out the best for you, depending on what you want as an individual and what you want for your careers. So if, for example, you want a program that is like very practical oriented, you'll be able to see that in the course PM when you go to the university websites, or even when you just get an overview at university admissions website. But if you want something that is maybe more on like the theory, then you also get that. So it's very important to know that there's a lot of diversity and the same program is not delivered the same way at the different schools. So it's important to do your research and find out which courses you feel might be best specifically for you.
Yeah. And also, because I can see in the live chat that there's some questions regarding scholarship, tuition fees, entry requirements. And Annamaria, perhaps you can share this time where, because today we've focused more on the academic culture in Sweden. So for the people who haven't got their questions answered, where would you advise them to read more about or find the actual answers to their questions? Where would you send those people?
Yeah, I think the information about tuition fees and I think the entry requirements also are on the program description at the university's website. So that's where I go. So if you know which program you want to study and maybe like that you want to study in Sweden, you can find all the programs at the university admissions, but not the website, and then there you can find the universities that offer it. So each university has its own requirements. I think sometimes they are similar, but they might differ, and they are pretty strict about the requirements. So make sure to fulfill them.
That's a great advice. And also at studyingsweden.se, we kind of like keep all the information at the same place, and we link to specific sites with entry requirements.
That's true.
So you can find the program on studyingsweden.se, but as Annamaria says, you will get directed to the university's websites where you will find program-specific entry requirements.
Yeah.
And also on universityadmissions.se, you can find country-specific entry requirements. Yeah. Nosy, what about you? Do you have any advice? Maybe our blog.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I was about to say that, like, a study in Sweden.se, there's a lot of information that is like put up in small blogs, so that if you're interested in a particular topic, you sort of get an overview, and then with the links of the places that you can go. So depending on what your questions are about, funding, maybe let's say even how you get the visa if you need one, and all those questions that a person might have about specific schools. Like, say for example, you want to know what it's like to study specifically at Lund or at KTH. You'll find that there are some people who have studied there, and they've shared their information on the blog. So it's a very good way to also learn to get information about what your study experience may be like. Like I say, it's very different across the different schools. So when you go and study in Sweden, it's nice because you have perspectives from different students, and you can choose what you feel maybe is most relevant to you. So that's a good place to start for everyone.
And I don't think we mentioned this, but both of you guys are writers on our blog.
Yeah.
So they can, the audience can find your experiences and handy information shared by you guys at studyingsweden.se. And also, speaking of this, we also have an Instagram and also a YouTube channel and a Facebook. The Instagram and the YouTube are run by Digital Ambassador, which are your colleagues, so to speak, current international students in Sweden. And I think the audience can also, if they have specific questions for you guys, they can find your emails up on studyingsweden.se as well if they have like specific question and want to reach out to you. Would it be okay for them to email you the questions?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So people, we have come to an end. I'd like to, before I say goodbye, I'd like to once again just address that we have 3 upcoming Study in Sweden virtual fairs this autumn. So for the audience, if you want to meet us live and direct at Study in Sweden team, or us from the Study in Sweden team, but also Swedish University at the same time, at the same place, make sure to join our virtual fairs. The dates are, the first one is next week, so it's the 5th of October. The second one is on the 22nd of October, and the third one is on the 12th of November. And they are all according to different time zones, but there are no restrictions, so you can join which one that suits you the best. Maybe you're a night owl and want to take part in the middle of the night. And of course, you can join 1, 2, or all 3 of them. They are all free of charge. So make sure to sign up and learn even more about studying in Sweden. Annamaria, Nosy, I'm so happy that you wanted to take part. I saw someone also mentioning actually your blog posts as well, that they really enjoyed them. And I believe that the audience is really, like, they really appreciate you guys for being here and sharing your honest opinion about what is, or the academic culture, what the academic culture in Sweden is like. So huge thank you. Would you like to say anything to end this live stream?
Mm,
Well,
yeah,
I
just
think you can go ahead.
yeah. I think like just the last advice from me would be like, do not be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and like come to Sweden, because I think you can find your way here.
Yeah.
And yeah, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here. I think the last thing I can say is sometimes the best experiences come when people go out of their comfort zone.
Yeah,
So a person may
exactly.
be thinking, maybe I shouldn't apply to this school. I feel so competitive, or maybe I shouldn't take this risk or do that. But I mean, you never know until you try. And for
Yeah.
some of us who have tried, the experience has been really fulfilling and worthwhile. So if you are here, obviously that means there's something about you that's saying, I want to study in Sweden, or maybe Sweden is somewhere I can study. I would say that is not a bad feeling, and you should actually see it through. Do the best that you can. Apply, and you never know. This might be like the best experience of
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A life-changing opportunity, perhaps.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you all again. As you see here below, please visit studyinSweden.se for more information. And also, if your question, if we didn't bring them up on stage, please find the answers on studyinSweden.se, or please, you will find the answers at studyinSweden.se. Okay, thank you to the audience, and huge thank you to you guys for being the guests of the day. And have a nice Wednesday, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.